Hello, and welcome to the Clinical Care Options Infectious Disease Podcast. I'm your host, Jacqueline Meredith. This episode features content regarding a patient's perspective on living with HIV. During this podcast, Marc Thompson, HIV activist and director of the Love Tank, shares his thoughts on the ongoing and added challenges faced by people aging with HIV and addresses the actions needed to improve present and future HIV care. This education is part of a larger educational program titled Conversations on Healthy Aging with HIV. For more information and for a link to the full online educational program, please visit the link in the show notes for this episode. Now let's get started and hear what Marc Thompson has to say about his experiences as a person living with HIV.
My name is Marc Thompson. I am a Black gay man who is 53, and I've been living with HIV since I was diagnosed age 17 in 1986. I live in London in the United Kingdom. I'm an activist, a health promoter, and somebody who truly believes in trying to get the best for people who are living with HIV, particularly those of us who are from some of the most marginalized and therefore affected communities by the virus. When I was diagnosed in 1986, in the really early days of the epidemic, we knew very little about HIV. And we had very little options around care and treatment. And a lot of our care happened in the community and also from clinicians and the healthcare service, but we had no treatment. So we were looking after pastoral care. We were looking at people's well-being and very often assisting people to die well or to live well during the period where they had the virus. And much of my care took place in clinical settings. So I would see my doctor every 3 months for regular checkups. And I would go to local community services where I would see a therapist, or I would have complementary therapies to just assist me to get through life. With the advent of treatment in 1997, after the successful Delta trials, treatment became widely available. And I myself didn't start treatment until 2001. So I had 15 years of being infected with no treatment at all. I was very, very fortunate, and I put that down to having good genes, a spiky attitude, and just good luck, because we know that HIV impacts everybody differently. And when treatment started and I got on it, my CD4 count had gone down to 120, and it immediately bounced back up. I felt fitter, I felt healthier, and I had pretty much a new lease of life. So care had shifted from no treatment from 86 to 97, so a good 11 years, to starting treatment in 2001. And I often say that I lived my life on a wing and a prayer, that I was just going from day to day. But with the good support of HIV clinicians, my community, my family, and my friends, they really helped me. And I think that this is something that helps a lot of people who were able to get through, was having a good support network. Over the past 3, nearly 4 decades of my own infection, and we're now in the 4th, 5th decade of HIV being really, really present, what hasn't changed is the big one, which is stigma. So both external, internal, and perceived stigma. So from the early days of the epidemic, people with HIV have had to face the threat of stigmatizing behaviors, discrimination from the state, from community, from the media, and from individuals. So we've had to manage that real threat to our lives and our well-being. And what's happened is that we've also internalized those stigmatizing thoughts and feelings, and those have had a detrimental impact on our mental well-being. Because many of us come from isolated or marginalized communities, HIV increases that, and it can increase your sense of isolation and loneliness, which has an impact on your mental health. We know that people with HIV have disproportionate higher rates of poor mental health, drug and alcohol use as well. So all of these things have continued throughout the life of the epidemic. I think what has changed with the advent of treatment, which has been good, is that many of us now feel much more in control of our HIV. By taking 1, 2, 3, or however many pills that we might take, the ability to manage our HIV ourselves is now in our hands. And that is incredibly empowering and liberating for us. And then obviously with the advent of U equals U in the past 5 or 6 years of us not being able to pass the virus on if we're on treatment has really lifted the burden of feeling infectious, passing the virus on to partners, to friends and family. The healthcare service across, well, not across the globe, but in certain countries, in certain parts of the world, has definitely changed and has changed for the better because of people with HIV, because of community and community activists and patients being empowered. The patient voice has become much stronger and has become much more recognized as necessary. And the patient has become a partner in their own healthcare. So they're respected much more by the clinicians. And I think there's some of that hierarchy of clinicians being on top and seen as God and the patients being passive recipients has really, really changed. But I think that just sits within HIV care. And I think HIV care is very special and very unique. Some of that has bled into other areas of healthcare. And I think that is one of my worries about us as we age. So as we age, some of the other things that are going to be issues that are going to be increased are going to be, as I've said, social isolation, more poor mental health. But I think there are things which are unique to us that are aging. So comorbidity, so we are more likely to develop other illnesses and other diseases as we age. There are going to be polypharmacy issues. We're going to be taking a lot more drugs. And then finally, we're going to need a lot more care. So our care is going to shift and change. A lot of the concerns that people who are aging with HIV have is that we're going to step out of our HIV bubble and those other providers are not going to be equipped to manage our specific needs. So they may either show stigmatizing behaviors or use stigmatizing language. Some of us who are positive may feel that we are not able to disclose in particular spaces. So if I have diabetes and I go to a diabetes specialist, are they going to be equipped to understand my HIV needs? If I go to the family doctor or general practice, am I going to be faced by stigmatization there by people who don't understand? And then finally, if I get really old and I need to go into a care home, are those care home staff going to be equipped to deal with my needs as a positive man? Then those needs may not be hugely different, but the simple fact that I am gay or that I have HIV, are those healthcare workers going to understand what HIV means in 2045 when I'm in my late 70s, right? So these are the concerns that are very real to us because they're not things that are happening in the future. These are things that are happening to people today. I know people that are going into care homes who have faced HIV stigma today, have faced homophobic abuse right now in 2022. So the picture isn't very clear for us. And I think those are very real concerns, and they're already having an impact on our mental well-being. What we need, first of all, is an evidence base around the needs and the experiences and the lives of people who are aging with HIV. And we don't have that yet. We don't have a strong evidence base because we are quite new. We are just aging, right? I'm probably one of the youngest older people at 53. So I think we need to build up an evidence base around what our needs are and also what those needs are going to look like going forward. I think secondly, we need to be preparing for the population that is going to continue to age. So young people who were born with HIV in the 80s and 90s are approaching their late 40s. So what are we doing to be prepared for them? I think what we also need to see is much more joint working and coalition between HIV service providers and clinical care and those that are providing healthcare around the multitude of health conditions which will impact on us as we age. So where are the lessons being learned? Where is that information being shared across the different health conditions? As in, this is my activist, I think we need to be much more respectful, understanding and accepting of our aging community. You know, we live in an ageist world where we don't respect the lives and experience of older people. And I think that older and aging people with HIV have so much to tell us, not just about what's going on in our bodies, but about our life experience. We have been through trauma. Many of us are suffering from post-traumatic stress. We've lost lovers, we've lost jobs, we've lost homes, but still we thrive. And I think there's so much that the world and our communities can learn from that resilience. At the Satellite Symposium at age 22 this year, where we'll be having a meeting where we'll be having conversations on healthy aging and HIV, people can expect a really rich, diverse conversation around the various factors and issues which are impacting on communities who are aging with HIV. People will learn some very rich material from activists and from clinicians. There will be some actions and some evidence about what we all need to go forward to manage this ongoing issue.
Yes, thank you very much, Marc Thompson. We are looking forward to that live symposium at the AIDS 2022 meeting in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. You can participate in person or by live simulcast. Just go to the link in the show note, and please be sure to check back for more episodes on important infectious disease topics. Thank you.